Let's have a look at a customer portal administrator from a customer's perspective. So what I can see here is that I've created a new customer. It's called Parts Distributor. They don't have a balance yet because they're only just a brand new customer that I've created. So no balance. I've created one contact for the customer, so Charles Brown here, and I've associated Charles with a user. So if I go into System Administrator and then User, if I have a look at our claims users, because they're coming in from the Enterprise portal, I have a user here which is Charles, and then Charles I've added to be the Customer Service Administrator. So that's the back-end connection piece. Now they're set up as a claims user, and in this case we're using the Azure Access Control Services to authenticate them. So let's go and have a look at Charles's experience logging onto the portal and creating a new user. So I'm going to switch across to a machine here, and this would be the URL that would send to Charles to say, please go and access our portal to do your administration order from us. So when he signs on, he can choose Azure Access Control, and this is the configuration in the back end. So he has an option in terms of how he's going to authenticate. Could be Live ID. In this case I'm using Azure Active Directory in a demo directory that I've created. So I'm going to say Charles Brown at daxdemo.onmicrosoft.com, and we're going to log in here. So this is the customer self-service portal, and so the permissions that he's assigned gives him the capabilities that he's going to see here. So from here he could look at orders that are in the system, he could look at invoices, but because this is a new customer, there's not going to be any documents in the system. Now, seeing he's the first administrator, he may want to create another person in their organization to use the same portal. So let's go and have a look at that process. So first we need to add a contact, and the contact is going to be Charles Green, and we're going to go and say create. Now we have to create a email address for Charles, so we're going to go and create an email address. So we're going to say Charles and of course this is just a dummy email address for the sake of the exercise. So I'm going to save that, and we'll save the contact. So at this point we have Charles Brown, which is the administrator, Charles Green, which is another user for the customer. Now from this point we can go and add a customer user. So I'm going to go and add a customer user, and you'll see that the role that they'll be assigned is customer external, and then the authentication will be Azure ACX, and so this is configured in the back end application settings in AX. So we're going to say save and close, and this will be the user that's created. Now in the back end there's a workflow process that will execute. So let's go and have a look at the back end process here. If we come into System Administration, we're going to have a user request sitting there. So if we look down the bottom, I've now got one which is Charles Green. So I'm going to open that up, and you'll see that this is a workflow. So I'm going to hit submit on the workflow here. So we're going to say submit the workflow. Now the workflow is going to go and run, so I'm just going to pause the video for a moment. What we want it to say is generate the email for us to go and invite Charles to access the portal. So I'll pause the video while the workflow runs. Okay, so workflow's run, and now it says authentication pending. So in this case the email has been sent out, so it's waiting to be sent out here to Charles Green. So because this is in a demo environment, of course the email's not actually going to go out because I just want to stop it there. But what's generated is a unique URL, and that unique URL is what we want to capture, because this will be sent to Charles to say please go and access the portal and authenticate yourself. So that will associate Charles's login information to the AX user that's being set up. So let's go and try this. So we're going to close out of the portal, which is the administrator, and I'll just use this machine to do the authentication request. So in this case, we're going to say this is how we're going to authenticate with this Azure Active Directory. So I'm going to say Charles Green at daxdemo.on Microsoft.com, and we have a temporary password because it's a new account in this particular case for the demo that I've created. So I'll just grab that password. Now, because this is a new user in the directory, it's going to ask us to change the password, so we're going to do that. So the password's changed, so we're going to log in. Okay, at this point it'll say the authentication is complete. So we've done a mapping between that login information and the user request. So that's all Charles needs to do at the moment. The next step is now the backend process. So we'll go back and have a look at the user request here, and we'll see that the authentication is pending. So we'll wait for a moment for the workflow to run. So I'll pause the video and then this will be updated. So workflows run. So now I can come in here and hit the complete, which is the next step in the workflow. So I'm going to go and hit complete. At this point you'll see the ID value here, which will be saved as the user, and this is the unique ID value that's returned from the login information, and that's the mapping that was done in the authentication step. So if we go and have a look, we'll wait a moment now that it's complete for the workflow to run. Okay, so now it's completed. Let's have a look at the user tables. So if we have a look, if we filter here, or this is the one here, so Charles Green, that's the user that's created, and if we have a look, they're a customer external user. If we have a look at their relationship, they'll be mapped to the parts distributor company in AX. So that's essentially the user created. If we now go and simulate Charles logging on to the portal, we'll go and simulate logging on. At this point we can select the DAX demo domain to log on. So I'll say Charles Green at daxdemo.on Microsoft.com, and then we'll log in. So Charles Green, typo. Okay, so once they're logged in, we'll see customer self-service, and we'll see, because they're not an administrator, I can't do user requests, but otherwise I can look at information related to the customer. Because it's a new customer, there's no transaction details here. But that's a quick walkthrough of creating a new user request from the customer portal administrator and allowing someone else from their organization to have access to the customer portal to do business.